This Heavy Impact show was so bad. It was so bad that these people had no idea how to make competition fair or even have the right fighter winning. Like, there's two options here. These people, like WCW producers in 2000, were completely moronic, which is something the Brian, Vinny, and Craig show once talked about when they talked about 2000 WCW. Or two, these people were trying to get the right fighters that they were promoting to get over with and to put them over in a big way, but they had no idea how to. I'm like, how can these heavyweight boxers in Britain be that tough as contenders if they can't even make it to one step at a time? How is this? How did they fail? How did they even make this so controversially a failure? How did DAZN even thought this was a good idea? How did Frank Warren think about this? It's so difficult. It's even hard for me to even talk about how you can even look at this from a light. You even have Jack Rafferty versus Corey O'Regan. And even though that fight went 5 rounds by TKO in the later part after 12 rounds, and even though the fight was ended by Cornerman, and even though with amazing knockout, and Jack Rafferty got his 26th win, and now he's in the super lightweight, ranked at number 22. This right here, making the lower weight class boxers in the division that entertainingly better, and you have heavyweight boxers having no idea how to make it to that level, and they failed, is so tough already that you had so much incompetence. Anyway, let's talk about these other United Kingdom shows like Devonish Complex, Belfast, and Rainton Meadows Arena. I don't know what to say about this. I almost want to talk about the co-op Frank Warren promotion so much because I'm pissed off. But I want to talk about the Germany show with the Autumn Weight Undisputed Championship, but that one even pisses me off most. Screw it. Well, let's get to these United Kingdom shows first before we talk about the Frank Warren stuff. Okay, so you can talk about Steve Wood and his promotion, and I don't know much about who Steve Winwood is other than he's been promoted since 1997, and there's not a lot of interesting things I can say about him other than he has been around some professional, but nothing much. He is promoting out Travis Waters, a 10-0 fighter that's ranked number 178 in the welterweight, and he just scored his 11th win, considering how he had a horrible cut on his eye that day, but he managed to squeak out 6 rounds of a decision. And other fights that night were nothing much because these were just new fighters taking on jobbers. And then you go to Devonish Complex in Belfast, Northern Ireland, to watch promoter Jamie Conlon, a guy I do remember a little bit because I remember this guy before. I remember watching him as the W because he used to be known for Michael Conlon. He was actually part of the Olympic Games, I remember, where he got his butt beat hard by Vladimir Nikitin in the 2016 Brazil Olympic Games. And then got his butt beat bad by a Cuban fighter in the 2012 Olympic Games. And you have his brother here that got his ace beat by a guy named Jerwin Atajaz for the IBF World Super Flyweight title. Got his butt obliterated by that IBF World Super Flyweight. He retires and with a 19-1 record because of that one loss. And he's been promoting barely, I can't even talk straight right now. He barely promoted out 14 shows and barely does have barely a resume of fighters he's promoting with, but all he has is a bunch of undefeated fighters barely having a few fights taken on jobbers. So I can't say much about that. While on the other hand, you have Frank Warren this show, now we get to Co-op Live Arena, and I see the worst of its competition, the worst that this whole entire building has to offer. Now, I want to talk about the WBO International Heavyweight title with Phil Perkovich versus Joe Joyce. And considering how Phil Perkovich has another cut over his left eye early in the first round again. And when watching that fight, and guys, I didn't wrote a lot of information of that as much because I was more upset about the David Adelaide fight. So I'm not going to get into the details about the Hrgović-Joyce fight because I was more upset of writing down words for the Atomweight Undisputed Championship and the David Adelaide and the TKV fight. This one right here, it's so ridiculous how you can have a bunch of people throw in so much work to try to give these guys a chance to still be in the ranks, and they fail. And you have people online saying, Joe Joyce, retire. Joe Joyce, there's too much left in him. And now Frank Warren and other people are saying, no, he's not going to retire. Guys, the problem is, here's the problem. Guys, I once had moments back in October of 2020, and I once had a little bit of an interesting answer with Counterpunch Boxing back in 2020 when I once watched his stream with the Joe Joyce versus Daniel Dubois fight, talking about how I thought Daniel Dubois was going to win that fight. And the reason I said that, I think the fight took place in November of 2020. November the 28th, 2020. And I commented that Daniel Dubois would have won that fight because he was young. And even when the fight ended, because Dubois had that horrible swollen fractured eye socket and he had to cut out the fight by round 10, even though two judges had it favored of him, but it was a round 10 TKO. They would have ended the fight by a technical decision, but I don't know if the UK does that. So it's so bad to watch this and you see that, and it makes me wonder. Because, guys, the reason I thought Daniel Dubois was going to beat Joe Joyce back in 2020 is because Joe Joyce came into professional boxing at a later year in his life. And even though, don't get me wrong, yes, Joe Joyce was an old fighter. And people say, well, the more older you are, the more wiser you are. And the more younger you are, the more you have to learn about as a boxer. And I know a lot of people think Moses Atama doesn't have what it takes because he's too young. He's pushing himself too much into the pros. And I agree with that. This right here pushes all limits of stupidity to a lot of degree right now. And it's hard for me to watch all of this to say to myself, this is professional boxing. And the reason I say that is that because people have to understand, guys, I want you people to understand. Deontay Wilder was born on October the 22nd, 1985. You got that? Joe Joyce was born on September the 19th, 1985. 1 month older. Joe Joyce is 1 month older than Deontay Wilder. And Deontay Wilder, yes, he came into boxing later in his career, really late in the 2000s, and by 2007 he was in the American World Championship and such. But yet again, there wasn't much to that, then, to say the least, because yes, Deontay Wilder managed to push himself to the top, and he managed to help out America win a championship in under a decade by 2015. Since Shannon Briggs is winning the WBO in 2006 and lost in 2007, but it's bad because Deontay Wilder came in boxing since 2008 in his pros, months after his Olympic Games. Joe Joyce came in to the heavyweights after his silver medal in 2016, and then a year later in October of 2017. He was over 30 years old, and at this moment, I was already questioning, did he have what it takes to beat Joseph Parker? He did, even though people said that Joseph Parker was not in good shape that day. And I even thought Joey Zhang was going to win. Not the way I expected. I didn't expect him to beat him twice by knockouts in 2023. But yeah, Joe Joyce had not what it took. And I think that's the thing. Joe Joyce came in too late in his career. And I wish people can understand that. So he comes into this fight not in the best shape he is, loses the first couple rounds. Yes, he came out on Hrgovic in round 3. Hrgovic came to round 8, and I thought round 5 was for Joyce, and round 6, round 7 for Hrgovic, round 8 barely for Joyce again, and then round 9 and round 7 was all Hrgovic. I had 96 to 94. I actually maybe thought it was 97 to 93 for Hrgovic still. But who knows? It's up to you to decide. But yet again, Joyce didn't have what it takes. And that's the problem. He came in late in his career, and that's that. But boy, oh boy. David Adelaide, I cannot wait to show you people what I wrote down here. I wrote a lot of other information about the Atomweight fight, but this one is the worst. Oh God almighty, it's the worst. It's the worst. Guys, give me a second. So, guys, I didn't wrote a lot of notes about this fight as much. Well, by round 4 and round 5, I didn't write much about crazy stuff happening in this fight, other than talking about how jabs and how many jabs they're doing in clinches, but nothing much. But this is probably the worst. So Adelaide is 28 years old, and Jamie TKV, is 31 years old. He's 254 and a half, 339 and 3/4 pounds of David Adelaide. And of course, the tail of the tape shows it completely different, such as Adelaide's 339.13 and TKV's 254.9. But I always look up the statistics on BoxRec instead of tail of the tape, because it's more accurate than this. So keep that in mind. Both guys are 6'4", only for Adelaide being 6'1.5". So that's the thing. Now Adelaide has suffered his loss against Fabio Wardley, and TKV, on the other hand, he's taken on a bunch of nobody fighters in his career. He did take on one guy named Harry Armstrong, no relation to the multi-time champion back in the 30s, but or a relative, because this guy's British, undefeated. And then he lost against a Brazilian fighter not long ago in 2023 by round 6 TKO. And then he started winning interesting nobody fights fairly. He did win a fight against Michael Webster back in February last month ago to win the IBO International Heavyweight title, so not bad. So that did got him up the ranks. David Adelaide, on the other hand, he comes back from his loss, takes him a full almost 14 months. He wins the BBBFC English Heavyweight title, and now he's fighting for the BBBFC British title, vacant. These two guys come out. It's so bad. I've never seen so much competence in 2025. Guys, people have to understand, 1996 and 1997 were years that had so much controversy in boxing. You had so much. You had both low blow controversies, with Riddick Bowe winning 2 fights in a row by the Polish fighter of Andrew Golotto, both by low blows. One in Madison Square Garden. The first fight created a riot of people. And Andrew Golotto's trainer had to be lifted in a stretcher in the middle of the riot. Crazy. Then in September of 1996, Tyson vacates his belt after his Frank Bruno controversy win, because Frank Bruno was not at his rank that day, takes on Bruce Seldon. Bruce Seldon takes a couple dives, loses, and then Tupac Shakur gets shot outside in a park in a 4-way intersection stoplight going to a gig, but never made it after people shot him, and then he died 6 days later. Keep that in mind. And Tupac Shakur was there that night. But controversy. And then we talk about the moment, the ear biting, where Tyson bites Evander Holyfield's ear off after their second fight, creates more controversy. And then we have the clinching. Henry Akinwande clinching Lennox Lewis multiple times, and Mills Lane also refereeing that fight, just like the Holyfield and Tyson 2 fight, had to disqualify it. There was nothing left in it. Andrew Golota came back after a full year of his controversy low blows, loses by first round knockout against Lewis. Waste of talent. And don't forget, Oliver McCall broke out in tears and suffered his first and only knockout loss, even though he was never knocked out, by, again, Lewis. 1996 and 1997 had so much controversies that 2025 is about to become the worst. After Skylar Lacey versus Brandon Moore in a couple months ago, due to the Claressa Shields versus Daniel Perkins world undisputed heavyweight title fight in women's boxing was a thing. Seeing how bad that fight became controversial with a cameraman tripping out of the ring and then crashing through a table to end the fight. We're not even halfway through this year. This fight was bad. So, guys, the fight started so bad and it got worse. It even got worse because the people that were voting David Adelaide to win this fight, his opponent was doing the better work. In round one, guys, it seemed like TKV was doing so good in the rounds. I didn't write down a lot of information, but there was a lot. The first round, we're seeing punches, punch, jab, jab, jab. Both are in their orthodox. And TKV is charging, attacking. They clinch. They get their arms caught on each other. There's times that they're putting headlocks on each other's gloves. Like every time, like if you had to say David Adelaide was going to throw a punch or he misses, or if TKV was going to throw a punch, they were going to throw a headlock on each other to stop them from punching and have the referee to say break. It was so bad. By the way, just to let you viewers know, the referee of this fight is Ron Kearney. So Ron Kearney has been a judge since 2016. In 2019. As a referee, 2016. Not even a decade in. And he has promoted a lot of refereeing fights back in 2024 for the BBBFC titles. And also was involved with a Jack Rafferty win against Henry Turner last October for multi-time British titles. But that was about it. He's fought a lot of BFC of titles. So I can understand why he's refereeing this fight. But after this, there's no way he should referee again. It was bad. These guys were clinching so bad. They're grabbing, touching each other, and every time they're grabbing and headlocking each other, the referee would spank their glove out of the way, get their arms off, and even say break. It was so bad that the first round, and TKV was dominating that round easily. There was nothing much you can say about it. And by the first round, it was just going to get worse by the minute. And it was going to get a little bit boring until the sixth round. Now, by round two, David Adelaide started to put in an interesting work. He was actually getting some offense in. But TKV, his left jabs were doing the work the entire night. He sometimes tries to charge in to attack David Adelaide, and they would just get their arms caught in each other. They were just throwing everything, slipping up everything, targeting some left uppercuts, fists, jabs. It was outside or inside. It was just... this is why I'm writing down. We're seeing jabs, uppercuts, jabbing, and TKV is he's staying low, sliding, going the distance. And there was a moment during the end of round one where they're still clinching each other and throwing punches, and Ron gives them warning for back of the head, warns TKV, bell rings, that's it. And by round two, it was just round two. So we're getting the round two, and both are getting themselves in a tight budget here. Now, the first minute and a half wasn't much to talk about, but then it gets worse. TKV goes for the charge, boom, misses, and then David is now clinching his arms, and we're getting punches to the back from TKV, and all Ron is doing, the referee, he's running, charging, he's going left, he's going out, he's slipping like he's a professional wrestling referee, and he's just spanking the gloves out of that. He's telling them break. He goes forward. He's just spanking the gloves every time they're hugging or holding each other. He just spanks the boxer's glove. It's so ridiculous. Like, it was like Ron. Now, there is some referees that have their character of how they referee the matches and what they do. Some referees don't like getting involved because they don't want to. They'll just wave the fight off but not push the fight because they don't want to get hit. And then you have other boxers that are trying to get in the way, or even this is how they're going to stop this or that. And so who knows? And by the final minute of the second round, they're clinching each other, still throwing, punching each other. And again, Ron is giving warning to TKV again for holding again. And it was bad. You come to round 3, it just gets worse. Because in round 3, about some minute into the fight, they're punching, TKV stumbles, Adelaide throws a wild left, misses, turns, TKV does nothing about it, goes forward, they both throw their left jabs, and then TKV does a crazy 180, and now Adelaide is hugging part of his back, and now he's shoving him. But for some reason, TKV is also having the back part of his left armpit, like holding Adelaide's left glove. Adelaide manages to pull it out, and the referee comes in to stop it. And man, oh man, Adelaide does not hesitate to swing that heavy left punch on TKV's back. His back was turned, and the crowd is roaring in bananas. The referee tells him not to do that. He times out the fight with 1 minute and 32 seconds left of the fight. He gives TKV a warning for not grab holding this or that, which is not wrong. And then he gives David a warning about this for punching in the back, this or that. They both touch gloves, continue the fight, and nothing left much dangerously happens except they just keep clinching. There's one moment that he was cornering David Adelaide to the ropes, and they just stand still for 10 seconds, but that's about it. By round 4 and round 5, I really can't say much about the fight other than it's just clinching. These guys, it's just a boring fight. Guys, I was done writing my notes down because at this moment, I was just done because this was just a dumb fight. What was the point of me writing down stuff that was this bad? It was bad. But yeah, it was just so bad that I just couldn't get nothing down. So we go to round 6. Round 6. At this moment, there's nothing much I can say. So TKV, David are both, they're getting in close. So this is what the 6th round said. The 6th round comes in, they're both stunning each other just for a couple seconds. They're both stunning each other for only a couple seconds. And then, of course, TKV is going for his jabs. He goes forward, backs. He does this or that. The best thing about TKV is he's holding his glove like this while punching. So he's protecting himself, not getting hit by David. Like, David has nothing. He doesn't know how to handle this guy. He comes in for a punch, and then David decides to not hesitate. He goes for a 2-punch jab, and then goes forward. TKV ducks, goes under, and then they grab each other. And now they're stuck and going for a punch, caught, this or that. TKV's left glove is around the back of David, and the referee spanks it away again. And as he does, lets go of it. But just to let you viewers know, we're going to get to the instant replay because the instant replay tells a whole different story. But Ron spanks the glove away, and this moment, TKV's glove is this way. He lets go, not charging it. He just keeps it like this. His full face is exposed. His left glove is down here because he got rid of it. He stopped hugging David. David's glove is right here to the bottom left. So he sets up this huge punch. Down goes TKV. The referee said break 5 seconds, even when he spanked the glove out of TKV and punches him, not even protecting him. David threw a free punch that should have never been a knockout, and the referee counts it. It's so bad. He gets up at the count of 6, and TKV is walking towards where his corner trainers are. His trainer is in disbelief of what he saw. He continues to fight this or that, and David comes in, but then he starts trying to clinch. TKV is trying to clinch David, punches the rope, cornering him, and then the camera angle to another camera angle showing TKV trying to push David away. To push him away, he steps forward, but David's left leg is sticking out in front. So TKV runs straight past him, trips over David's left leg, and hits the ground. And the referee counts as a knockout. What the heck is going on here? He gets up at the count of 7, walks back to his corner again, and even when he's about to say he's ready, the referee waves the fight off. And then his trainer comes in, busts out to the corner, and he threatens him, giving this crazy wild freak that he's pissed off. They had to cut away to go to the other side of the corner, watching David Adelaide like climbing up on the ring and celebrating his win. This was ridiculously bad. And it's even worse because I didn't get to see what happened. And I thought the first knockout was legit. It wasn't a controversial knockout. They showed us the replay of the second knockout. But then after they did, they showed us the first replay of the knockout in the opposite angle, which shows Adelaide putting a headlock on TKV's left arm. So his arm was caught on the armpit, which is why he was hugging Adelaide on the back. He could not get his left glove on, and he's holding it. And it shows Ron spanks the glove away, grabs it away from him, and then TKV turns his glove like this, and that's how David threw the free left punch that brought him down the first round. The referee had no business to become a referee whatsoever. It's the worst fight ever, and it's even worse when you get to see the full potential of another fight that's going to happen in Germany. And they even showed us another replay of the other angle, which showed the clear punch to the cheek. It was such a bad fight, and TKV, like, at this moment, it's so bad to see this because David Adelaide, as a former now British champion, this right here is not ranked the best. Like, he's number 32 in the world right now, but this right here is not what it's like to be in the boxing. It was a bad fight from the start, and it got worse. And Frank Warren's boxing promotion that day just became legitimately bad. Like you can talk about Delicious Ori, the 2024 Olympian that failed I think it was in the round of 16. He actually got his debut in this 4-round fight in this same show against a 3-7 fighter, wins all 4 rounds by decision in his pro debut. So congrats for that. But everything else on this show was just not good. It had a lot of bad stuff, but you look back at it, it's bad. You look back at it, it is what it is, but this was the worst. It was a bad show for what it was, and it had a lot of moments where these British boxers proved that Frank Warren's promoting boxers were not there. And you have David Adelaide winning a controversial fight. Joe Joyce is done for, and now Daniel Dubois taking on Alexander Usyk for a rematch. At this moment, I feel like Eddie Hearn's boxers, in my opinion, could do a much better job. But yet again, for everything going on, this is ridiculous. By far the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And that right there is just bad. It is bad, but looking back at it, it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah.